what happened when a local consulting company decided to cut their workday from 8 hours a day to 6 hours a day? Well, I'll tell you. Jim Moss is the Chief Happiness Officer for Plasticity Labs. Plasticity Labs was launched in 2013 by Jim Moss and his wife, and just 2 years later, the firm was dubbed Innovators of the Year by Canadian Business Magazine. The event that gave rise to this entrepreneurial venture occurred years before, in September of 2009, when Jim Moss contracted an autoimmune disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome. Doctors told him he would likely never walk again. Moss was stunned, but he was determined to rehabilitate. While doing rehab, he noticed the more positive and optimistic he was feeling, the better he became. And his nurses and therapists noticed the exact same thing. A month later, Jim Moss was back up and walking with a newfound respect for the power of positive thinking. Today, with a goal of increasing productivity through happiness, Plasticity Labs uses a digital platform to gauge employee happiness and to assess the issues that are affecting that happiness. A simple but brilliant concept. Jim found that even though he was a consultant helping other companies increase their morale and their happiness in their workplaces, he himself was actually unhappy quite a lot of the time and feeling kind of burnt out. Jim and his staff, a small company, 5 people in all, decided to look at what brings them the most happiness and the most relaxation in their lives. And they found that it was spending time with family and exercising, neither of which are done at work. So they decided to experiment with reducing their hours from 8 hours a day to 6 hours a day and seeing how that would impact their productivity and their happiness and their general sense of well-being. They found that they were happier, better rested, and more focused. And therefore, they were more productive. So they work less, but they work better. Feeling somewhat skeptical about all this, I decided to take a look around and see what kind of research I could dig up that would support this idea that shorter workdays actually boost productivity. I found there's actually quite a bit of support for the idea. As a matter of fact, it's a growing thing. In Europe, mostly in Scandinavian countries, a lot of companies are reducing their hours from 8 hours a day to 6 hours a day. And they're finding their productivity is increasing. Anita Bowie, who teaches business and economics at Laurier University, says shorter workdays are actually proven to boost both happiness and productivity. She says workers are much happier because they know that after work they've got plans with family, they've got plans with friends. A study by UK firm VoucherCloud suggests that the average worker in the United Kingdom is productive for about 2 hours and 53 minutes out of the typical 8-hour workday. The things that people spend time doing at work that aren't actually work are things like checking social media for 44 minutes a day, reading news websites that they spend about 1 hour and 5 minutes a day doing, discussing out-of-work activities, smoking breaks, texting, messaging, eating snacks, making food in the office, and here's the funniest one. The average worker in the United Kingdom actually spends 26 minutes a day looking for another job. The University of Ohio is also a proponent of a shorter workday, suggesting that while at work, the average worker is interrupted once on average every 3 minutes, and that it takes the average worker 23 minutes to get back to work after being interrupted. When I think of how productive I am during a typical 8-hour day, I tend to agree with this research. I think I work better under pressure. If I have less time to get something done, then I'm more focused and less likely to be distracted. If it were up to me, I would give this an honest try. I would try shortening the typical workday to 6 hours and just see how that works in terms of productivity. As more and more smaller companies try this, I think we're going to find that this is actually an effective way to increase productivity and well-being both at the same time. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you at the next Business Current event.